Meeting of the Board of Education shall convene.
I usually just go with the wireless. Caleb, welcome to the circus.
First of all, I'd like to introduce a very, very important person for this meeting. Her name is Kayla Woodside, student at Southeast High School. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay. And she will be the district's student representative to the Board of Education. And I think will probably bring wisdom to it. And very, very happy for that. I would like to, would you like to say a few things about yourself before we take the oath? No pressure.
Name, rank, and serial number.
You're a great student, I'll bet anything.
I'm Kayla. I'm looking at going to UIS to be a political science major. I want to do PR for politicians, and politics is sketchy, but I love it. It's really interesting. I really like staying active in the community and looking at the problems and trying to find ways to fix things. So I'm really excited to be on the school board this year.
I'd have to say I'm excited to have you. Kayla's a former student of mine at Jefferson, and we could not have had a better pick to be on this board. She's wonderful.
And the first from Southeast ever.
Spartan.
Well, why don't we have you stand up and come right over here. And I will read this. Okay. I, right hand.
Right here.
You were right the first time. It's okay.
I
I, Kayla Woodside,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I shall faithfully discharge the duties of District 186
that I shall faithfully discharge the duties of District 186
student board member.
student board member.
I shall serve as a board liaison
I shall serve as a board
Okay.
liaison
to the student body. I shall represent student interest to the board,
I shall serve as a student body,
represent student body interests.
represent the student body interests.
And I shall adhere to the highest critical ethical standards. Excuse me. We're having a hard time. Don't worry. It's got to get better. And shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion of all who come before this board.
All that.
Just give
You can tell I didn't write that because it would have been about 2 sentences. You and I would have gone right through that. All right. All right, board salutes.
I have a couple. I'd like to salute Harvard Park. I was there for a visit. I want to commend Harvard Park on the great improvements they've made in reading and math, and also the support they're getting from 5 local churches to help them with their reading. I was told when I was over there that they are there on a weekly basis helping the students with reading. I think that, along with all the hard work that the students and the teachers have done, it has shown an effect at Harvard Park. Also visited Springfield Learning Academy. Mrs. Brown took me around for a visit. I'm very impressed with the job they're doing there. She told me the other day when I was there, they have actually graduated between 80 and 90 students in the last few years. That's the purpose of the program, to get children over there that are behind, that are truant, getting them caught up. with their academics and getting credit. So my hat's off to SLA for the job they're doing. And I also want to take my hat off to Mrs. Crum and her folks, Mrs. Morris, Mrs. Morrison. I attended middle school, high school symposium last week, and those high school and middle school teachers did a lot of heavy-duty good work. Very proud of the job they were doing, so good job, you guys.
I got one real quick.
Okay.
Not so much a salute, but an announcement. It's that time of year again. Lamphere's going to be working on their Making the Grade events throughout the year. The first one's going to be October 3rd, Thursday at Lamphere. It's going to go all day. This is where they're looking for adult mentors to sit down with students and discuss their grades and discuss how things are going with them in their high school. And it's a great experience. I've done it quite a bit, and you actually do make an impact for these students. So if you can help us volunteer, come over to Lamphere and do that for us, October 3rd.
Okay.
I have
All right, I'm sorry. Okay.
a hard to fight over here. On Saturday, Fairview Elementary had their fall festival. And I had an opportunity to go over and help serve food and to intermingle with the whole Fairview community. And we had a great time over there. And because it's one of the un-air conditioned buildings, God saw favor to make it a nice, beautiful day. So I was able to survive. So hopefully at some point they will get their air conditioning. And Mr. Shavers, I understand there's a couple classrooms that don't have the right electrical outlets to have window air conditioners. So I truly hope that's going to be taken care of in short order.
They were working on that last week, yes,
Okay.
adding those in for those two classrooms.
And one other, yesterday we had a group of community members had an event called A Page Worth Saving. It was a fundraiser for Miss Marlon Allen Page, who has ALS, and he is a graduate of Lamphere High School. The event was held at Southeast High School, and we had a packed house, and that one over there, Mr. Adam Lopez is happy because Southeast won the alumni game. We had alumni teams from all 4 city high schools, and it was a wonderful event. And I would like to thank everyone who participated and everyone in the district who helped me get this together. Mr. Wynn, your staff in the building did a wonderful job, and I'd like there to be commended for their assistance.
Great. Anyone else?
Okay, do we have anyone here tonight from ShareFest? Could you come forward? Are you Kyra?
I'm Melissa.
Melissa, I get you two mixed up, I'm sorry.
We get that all the time.
Do you? Well, good, I'm feeling a little better. Springfield Public Schools and Adams and McLernan Schools recognize the extraordinary effort and generosity of the Springfield ShareFest initiative, coordinated by Westside Christian Church and the involved hundreds of volunteers and community organizations who participated in an extensive beautification makeover of Adams and McLernan School over this summer. And tonight we want to pay them special recognition by at least presenting you with a certificate and telling you how much we appreciate it.
Thank you so very much.
Would you like to say anything? You can go there or you can talk loud.
When Westside Christian Church determined to make over Harvard Park Elementary School in 2011, it really wasn't our original intention to perform an extreme school makeover. We simply wanted our educators to feel supported, and we wanted to do something to help a school in need. And we sought the input of the district and of the school leaders and determined that investing deeply in the facility would be just what they needed to spark momentum. And so it is really just by accident almost that we've rolled into this extreme school makeover program, but it is our privilege really to partner with District 186. We want to make sure this district attracts and retains great educators and supports them with everything that they need to succeed. We want to make sure that our students, just like District 186 does, wants to make sure our students are equipped with everything they need to thrive. And our partnership with you has been just a joy for us over the last several years. It's been encouraging to see the community support of our schools through Springfield ShareFest, and we are convinced that the world can change through the generosity of everyone. So everyone moving in the same direction and sharing what they have for the common good of our city is what we enjoy doing. So thank you for the opportunity to partner with 186. Thanks for allowing us in your schools, Mr. Shaver. And thank you to the staff at McLernan and Jane Addams Elementary Schools.
We thank you. And your church is having an activity coming up?
Yes, this Sunday, we will celebrate ShareFest during all 4 of our Sunday morning services, and then in the evening time from 4 to 6 p.m., anybody who's interested in seeing the makeover at both schools, the results of the makeover, can take an open house tour through both of those schools anytime between 4 and 6 p.m.
Thank you very much. I've commented on this numerous times, and the work and the energy and the spirit of these folks shakes you. You know, it's unbelievable, and so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is Dr. John Carlton in the house? There he is. I thought I saw you earlier. Can you come forward with Mr. Flamini? If you don't know Dr. John Carlton, he is I believe, the founder. Are you the original founder?
Yeah.
Of the First Day Fund, which has been responsible for 20 years providing supplies for all the kids in District 186 to make sure that they're ready for the first day of school. And so tonight we'd like to once again say thank you formally and publicly for your efforts. Mr. Flamini has a certificate for you.
Great appreciation, because I remember I was teaching in the district when this began. You were everywhere.
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything?
Sure. I'm a preacher.
Uh-oh.
Open your Bibles and your hymn books and let's get started. This is our 21st distribution was in August. We started in 1993 was the first one. We have averaged 1,850 kids. That's 1,850 children every year since 1993. And it's not because of us, it's because of you here in the district and the citizens of Central Illinois. And we've been able to do this. We average about $37,000 to $38,000 that we raise every year. That all goes directly into school supplies. We don't have any administrative costs at all. Everything that we do is donated. Every hour that we put in is donated by volunteers. So I just want to say thank you to the citizens of Central Illinois and District 186 for letting us take care of our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Carlton. Very much appreciated. Short story. I remember one of my first tours of duty in 1900 West Monroe was the director of middle schools and high schools when Dr. Hill was the superintendent. And this concept was being developed and this idea. And Dr. Hill said, Lenny, I want you to go out there and go to that meeting. I said, what's this all about? And he said, some guy's going to provide school supplies for every kid in the district. I said, really? That'll never work. Yeah, don't follow me to the window, I can tell you. But it did work, and you've done a great job, and I know you've got a lot of support that helps you, and so that's very much appreciated. Thanks again. All right.
Student business. It's too early to have any business right now. I know. Okay. Any board members have old business? Boy.
I think before you move on there, in the future, that will be your opportunity at each board meeting, excuse me, to bring up any of the issues or things that you feel are worthy of mentioning here. So, and there's people here that can give you some guidance too, and I'm sure Mr. Wynn can help you with that and some of your favorite teachers. But that will become your responsibility and your job, so to speak. So.
Okay. This will be about the superintendent search. And Scott?
Yeah, just briefly, I'll update you on timeline where we're at. First off, there is an online survey that's available currently, and it'll be open until September 27th at 4:30 p.m. It's at sps186.org right on the front page. Hopefully that word gets out to the community and more people take that survey so we can have more insight from the community on how they want the profile to be set up for the superintendent search going forward. There will be a special meeting during the week of October 14th. We're working with the board members now to schedule that date. There will be an open and executive session for that, and that will be to discuss contractual information for the new superintendent, whoever that may be. Then we'll have another special meeting November 8th, the week of November 18th. Again, the date will be hammered out here very soon. And this will be a closed and open session again that will be to discuss how to interview these candidates, and also that will be where the board will be presented with the 5 to 7 candidates that have been narrowed down in the search. We will then also, concurrently, right now, we need to start working on the contract, so that is prepared and ready to go before the person is selected, and that way we can easily get that person into the contract. And then we also need to schedule interview times. According to Exec Connect's timeline, we would want to schedule the interviews for the first week of December, around December 2nd. And then the finalists would be chosen at the end of that week. And then second interviews would be held the following week. And hopefully, if all goes well, a final decision will be made at the end of that week, so the second week of December. And that way we can have it all voted on December 16th. That's if everything's a perfect world. So if everything works out, December 16th, we'll know who the new superintendent will be.
Thank you. Any new business from other board members?
I have one item. Mrs. Baker, it's not really a question for you. I just want to know if you could give me assistance here on something. I've been hearing that we're getting an inordinate amount of special ed students in high school alternative already. We're 3 weeks into school, and I wanted to know if you might be able to give us some information about interventions being done before placement. It seems like a lot of kids going into alternative program in a short amount of time of school, so I'd like some information on that. I'm concerned about our graduation rate for special ed. I want to make sure that this is not hindering our progress toward that goal, so if you could give us some information on that. I know it's going to take a little time to get it, so I'm not asking for it in the next week or so, but whenever you can get it to us. Thank you.
Okay. Scott, speak to the change in board policy as it deals with administering of medication.
Yeah, this is a first reading for a policy change, and we'll have a second reading in the next meeting. What this is this is the EpiPen policy that we put together last year. We had a meeting with Lou Baker, Val Rogers, and Superintendent Lemming, and we discussed first and foremost if we wanted to have the EpiPens in the schools, and I want to thank Superintendent Lemming for making the decision that we will have the EpiPens in the schools. I think that's a very good step forward, and now the policy's in place, that was the way we needed to go, so I appreciate that. What we're doing here with the policy is we're removing one word, which is locked. That word is not required in the law, and we determined that since we do not have nurses on staff at all the buildings at all times, if something happens to a student when their nurse is not available without a key, we want those EpiPens readily available. So this would still have them secured in a location, but they will not be locked with a key. That's it.
And we'll hear a little bit more next board meeting when we have to perhaps vote on that. Presentations to the board, I see none.
Wait, could we discuss that a little bit?
Yeah.
I just had some questions because in reading the policy, it talks about having registered nurse and how the registered nurse is going to be administering the EpiPen. If the person doesn't have a prescription on file. So how many of our schools have registered nurses on site?
We have 16 registered nurses.
Okay.
We've got 34 schools, 35 schools. They are organized, and Lou, I'm in your territory now. You want to take over this conversation since I'm stammering here a little bit. This was a part of our discussion on how this would happen and how services would be delivered if needed. So, Ms. Baker?
Okay, and so while we have 16 registered nurses, they're not at one location. They travel throughout the district. So they could be in any given building, depending on when something would occur that an EpiPen would be needed, could vary as to who would actually be able to administer that.
Okay, so it's not necessarily going to be a registered nurse.
Well, that's what the guidelines tell us. We have other nurses that maybe are not registered that are under their supervision also.
Well, how will that work, though, given the language of this policy? You know, because it states that a registered nurse will be administering it. Are they going to, just by the verbal verbal
I think what it
direction?
states is that they would determine whether or not there's a need for it to be administered. So whether they are physically present or whether that would be done by telephone call, where they're talking to another nurse that's on duty or someone else. So there's a little bit of a leeway there.
Okay, and we're also waiting on the guidance of a physician, too.
And I think that Val is working on that piece.
Can I clarify just a bit there? The guidance from the physician is basically writing the prescription.
Correct.
And Dr. Siri
Is
correct?
who we're working with.
She was here a year ago and helped kind of formulate this policy, and we are hoping that she'll do that for us. The one thing we did discuss this quite a bit when we were formulating this policy. It's a good question. We had talked to Mr. Cross, and even though this policy follows the guidelines that were put forth with the new law, there are other laws in place, and I'm not going to quote them because I'm definitely not a lawyer, but there are other laws in place dealing with Good Samaritan, dealing with protection for our teachers, that if somebody injects a student who's not a nurse, they would still be covered under different laws. So there's not much of a liability concern.
Okay, well, there's a liability, but there's also the concern about we're not waiting.
Life and death.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why we're getting rid of locked.
Okay.
We
That
want
was
these
our
readily available.
exact concern. If the nurse was a mile away, that may be too far. And then the next steps will be taken, whether it's the principal or whatever adult is available. But the EpiPens will be there in the building if there was a required emergency service to be applied.
Okay, and then the other sentence that I questioned was on page 1, the last sentence where it says, and it's just language, after injections, emergency responders and parents shall be notified. And it just sounds like we're waiting until after the event to notify emergency responders and parents. And, given what had occurred with SHG last week, that parents were very upset that they weren't notified in a timely manner. And so, again, should we?
I would just say that we are putting together our procedures on that piece, and so we don't have exact language. I know that's the policy, but if it's an emergency, I think then we will do what we need to do for that emergency and then take the steps of making the phone call and go from there.
So conceivably, it can be done simultaneously, it's just not the way it's written.
It could be.
Yeah. And then another question I had, too, was the protocol. There was language here. The standing protocol from a physician, is that standing protocol written?
I'm not sure.
Okay, let's see. It's in second page. It says a run-on sentence, so.
Well, we copy and paste from the law, unfortunately.
The fifth line, including a physician's standing protocol or prescription for school.
Well, and so that's back to the prescription piece that we're working with Dr. Siri on.
She'll write a blanket prescription for the entire district, saying the district can administer.
During this, okay. And where will that be located, so people will know what the protocol is?
Well, again, as far as the procedures that will go out to the schools and that, we're working on that. So they will have that information. We'll share that information with the building principals.
Okay, so that doesn't exist right now?
Not now.
Okay. And when will that be done?
I don't have a date.
Okay, all right. Well, it's just that I want to make sure that these loose ends are tied up so that, we're talking about having a protocol and it doesn't exist, and then when the emergency arises and people are looking for the protocol, but it hasn't been done because the assumption was made that it was going to be completed.
Well, that's what we're doing, is trying to tie up those loose ends, and so working with the doctor, working with the district attorney, all of those pieces to
Okay.
make sure that we have those in place. And I think then it'll be brought back to the board.
Yeah, I was going to recommend that if there's some concern about the protocol and the procedures, and when all of your protocol has been laid out, let's bring it back and let's make it
Yeah.
And just to
another
add
piece
to
of the presentation.
give a full timeline here, this meeting took place less than a week ago. So they've been moving on it, but this is just the first reading, so that's why the policies aren't completely in place. We did this policy last year not even knowing if we were going to allow the EpiPens into the system. So this is just the final step, basically.
I'd agree.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, I have a question. So where are we going to get the EpiPens? Are they being donated, or are we purchasing?
Right now, there are grants that are out there where they would be donated to the school. That's part of what we have to write up, is the grant or the request for those.
Okay, so I'm going back to the line of questioning that Mrs. Moore had. We're doing this resolution, we don't have the protocols in place, we're not far enough along, so are we months out? Are we looking at next school year? Or do we have
This is
a
first
better
reading.
timeline than that?
You won't be voting on this tonight.
No, I'm not talking about the adoption of the resolution. We have a resolution, but the protocols should still be in place somehow.
I think we can have them by the next board meeting, can't we?
We're hopeful. I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
again, I don't have dates that I can give you on that. We're making the request, and we had worked with the doctor last spring, and she had offered to help us with writing whatever it is that we need to for the grants that are out there for these EpiPens.
And just for a little bit of context, the pens aren't available yet. We haven't even written for the grants yet. But I do want to point out that if a child's sitting there and they're not being able to breathe, and I don't have a policy in front of me, I'm still going to inject them. So we need to keep that in mind, too.
Well, I don't think that's my point. My point is those children who may need EpiPens, I'm sure are having those supplied already. But I'm just trying to figure out how long we're going to be. We've waited to this point to start looking for grants. Grants have deadlines, and, I'm trying to figure out, are we going to be able to do this school year? Are we?
Well, we waited to this point because when we ended in the spring, we weren't given a direction one way or another as to whether or not we were going to actually have the EpiPens in the schools. We just now received that, and so we're moving forward with that piece.
Okay, and you have someone, I'm just trying to see, do you think?
Our
Have somebody
hope-
taken a preliminary look at the grant application to see when the deadline might be? Is it the end of this month, or is it the end of April? And when decisions are going to be made? Do you have any idea?
I don't have a date.
And this is where I can fall on my sword, too, because this was the previous board not giving clear guidance to Ms. Baker and her shop, and then we just had this meeting this week, last week. So this is one of those where, in terms of timeline, we just got started on this, but I agree with you that we need to figure it out, I really do. It's not on Ms. Baker, this is not the reason why this hasn't happened yet, it's because the board didn't
Well,
give
no, I'm not
guidance.
trying to say that. I just want to know, maybe next board meeting when we have when we go to adopt a resolution, we can have a better idea of the timeline that might take place. Yes,
I will bring an update.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, business reports, Joe?
President Flamini, members of the board, the district ended the month of August with a cash balance of $10.9 million in the bank for all funds. Interest rates with the Illinois funds averaged 0.014% for the month. Earned interest for the month was $360, with interest earnings year-to-date of $1,488. Schedule of investments is also included in the report, and currently we have approximately $32.5 million invested.
Any questions?
I do. Mr. Vasquez, this is coming up under consent, the E-rate. I've asked you to give us some information on what the recoveries have been to date. Could you please update?
Sure.
Thank you.
To date, we've not received anything.
But,
But we do know we have about $234,000 coming. We should about $154,000 of that we should be getting in the next couple of weeks, and then the balance, shortly after that, within the next month or so, I believe.
good, thank you. Those of us who were on the board before recall this discussion, and thank you. I appreciate you following up on that, and that's good news.
So, and then I have a follow-up to that. This fact sheet
Yes.
is not accurate.
No, it's accurate.
How much did you say we were about to get?
Well, it comes in different pieces because it comes from our individual, it comes back to us from our providers. So within the next couple of months, we'll be getting approximately $235,000, $237,000, and that is the dollars in the FY12 column and the FY13 column.
Okay. And, well, I guess I'll wait till we get to that part of
Okay.
the roll call.
Okay. Super. All right, now we're going to go to the superintendent's report.
I'm going to get a little help with that. Mr. Sanders is going to give us an enrollment report update for the district. We're at that time of the year where I think people anticipate looking for some good news, so what do you have for us?
Let's see, total enrollment for the district is, we are at 14,515. It's K through 12. And actually, I'm wrong, 15,261, that's the grand total. That's everything across the board. High schools, total is 4,104. Middle schools, 3,277. And total then for K through 5 is 7,880 for breakdown.
So we've remained roughly the same, mid 15,000, as we have for probably a decade now.
Yeah, we're holding pretty steady with enrollment right around 15,000.
Very good.
This Friday, September the 20th, is one of those all-day school improvement days that I know that we talk about sometime, and I thought it would be well-served if Ms. Crum gave us a report on what the activities for that day will be.
The school improvement days are really important to the schools. First of all the schools will be engaged in some training around the Danielson framework. We have all of our schools participating now, and our Phase 1 schools are learning about student growth and practicing that, so that'll be probably about half of the day. And then the other part of the day, actually, Mr. Zimmer's talked about symposium. The leadership teams at symposium really took a look at the data and really took a look at what their schools needed, each school needed to focus on. And so it will be a really important time for them to really hone in on the instructional shifts and the practices that need to change in order to address student achievement. So the rest of the days will be spent on that. And then beyond that, all of our schools are engaged in a book study, better learning through structured teaching, and so there'll be some conversation about that as well. So that's the overall, and then schools may have other things, individuals in between, but we only get 4 of those days, and those are just really important professional development times for our teachers to work together.
questions?
Have you thought about doing teacher-student bullying improvement? Like, I'm not saying that every teacher bullies or hones in on people, but every teacher has biases, and I feel like that's something that I can see that disrupts learning between teachers and students. So maybe if you could only take 30 minutes, like pass out a sheet about like maybe trying to accept your students a little bit more. Because I see the way that high track students are taught and treated, but then you see like teachers who will teach high track classes, teach lower track classes, and they'll treat their students completely different. And maybe they feel like it's helping them to learn, but other students feel like they're being attacked or they're being treated as they're ignorant. And maybe that would be something that we could address.
Sure. That's a good point. We don't always think of everything. Ms. Crum, you want to comment on that?
All those kind of things that we would love, I'd love to talk to you some more about that, and we can definitely address it.
Thank you. Okay. That's the end of my report.
Okay, consent. The consent items.
Consent items, I'm recommending approval of consent action items 8.2 through 8.8 as described in the corresponding resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. None?
Yes, just a sec.
How we do?
The E-rate in here, so yeah, 8.5, let's start with that one. I'd like to know this BTU cost, what is that?
That is the consulting group that prepares all our paperwork and helps us make determinations to what we need to do.
So I'd like to know why their price is going up so dramatically.
Well, it's the same price it is for the third year that we currently have. For the first 2 years, they completed some of the paperwork that our offices had previously started. The FY 2014 is the first year that they'll totally do it for us. There are two types of funding, Priority 1 and Priority 2. The FY 2014 will be the first year that they do Priority 2 funding for us. We can only claim those dollars 2 out of every 5 years. So so basically the contract is staying the same. And then for 2 out of the last 3 years, we'll probably do Priority 2 again in 2015. And then in 2016 and 2017, we'll just do the Priority 1. So more than likely the cost would not be more than the $10,800 per year.
But we don't know that in the last 2 to 16.
No, actually, we do know those rates. It's our option as to whether or not we want to continue with them as our consultants for the second and third year of this 3-year contract. We're locked into the first year, which is what we're working on now, or will be shortly. And then the last 2 years are optional on our part, either for both priorities or just one priority.
Okay, then I have another question. On 8.8, can somebody tell us something about the Matthew Project?
I'd be happy to. I was going to actually address that anyway, so that's a good question. The Matthew Project, we actually have the director of the program with us this evening, Ann Libri, who is the founder and developer of this project. Ann, would you like to come forward and respond to Ms. Johnson's inquiry? Feel free to use the microphone right over here.
Well, 5 years in the making, we're finally here. I'm so glad to be able to be here and see all of you. And we are actually a not-for-profit, 100% volunteer organization that focuses on academics and mentoring exclusively homeless children in the district. So the way the program runs is the children are brought in after school. Our first school is Hazel Dell. And we've identified 10 to 15 students. The district has identified those, Mrs. Haley and Mr. McVeigh. They'll be brought in, and we have a meal for the children, because as you know, those little kiddos probably aren't going to be eating that night. So they have a meal, and then we have about 40 minutes after they all clean up. They're all responsible for cleaning up. We have about 40 minutes of academic time. And we're really excited about that because the volunteers/mentors are going to be, one of the requirements is that they're going to be in weekly contact with that child's teachers. So we know what's on the spelling test. We know what they're struggling with. We know that if there's a class project there, that we'll have all of the materials there that the children need to get that project done. We have literally hundreds of brand new learning aids and fun games and interactive play for the children to learn. And a complete library. We have a library system. So after we have that 40 minutes of academic time, then we will be doing a predetermined life skill activity. We've partnered with 12 local banks here in town. We'll be doing a financial literacy course, which is really exciting for us. We've partnered with SIU School of Medicine. We're going to be doing a lot of health and wellness classes for the students. We're just trying to really fill in the gaps where they're missing. We want to teach the children what I'm teaching my own daughter, and what we're all teaching our own children, how to be responsible, how to get help with academics when they need it, how to be respectful of themselves and others, how to be honest. We just want to reinforce those things that we're teaching our own kids. So after we do the life skill activity, then comes the exciting part for the kids, the favorite part. We have an entire bank of shelves filled with hundreds of brand new items, all school supplies and all emergency items like underwear, socks, shoes, clothing, belts, items that the kids really need. But we don't give anything for free. They have to earn absolutely everything that they get at the Matthew Project. So they earn those items by a lot of different things. They earn them at school by school attendance. They get $1 for every day that they're in school. Not a real dollar, a Matthew money dollar. They get goal grades, which will be set by the teachers. A D might be a goal grade, and we're going to cheer them on when they get that D and give them their Matthew money for all kinds of different things. A lot of behavior related issues. So if a child is showing honesty or self-respect, or we're going to leave that up to the discretion of the teachers, and they'll be able to issue that money. So at the end of the week, or on Thursday morning, that child's going to get a printout. They're going to get from a teacher a paycheck, so to speak, where they'll have $2 or $10 or $8 or $15 or $20. And then at the end of the day, at the Matthew Project, they've got that paycheck, and they've got a little savings account book, and they can either go and buy something with their money that they've earned that week, or they can save it for one of the really big items, which is going to be an iPad and a Nook and some really great educational items. So the goal is to always, help the kids save and help them teach them how to be wise with their money. But ultimately, it's going to be that child's decision every single Thursday evening what they want to do with their money. So when that's finished, the kids go home, and we can't wait to see them that following week.
When's your first day?
Our first day is Thursday, the 26th. So coming right up.
How are these children being transported?
And that's part of the.
Well, the district is taking it from school to the Matthew Project as if they were taking them home. And then the Urban League is taking them from the Matthew Project to their home, to their residence.
Well, I went out, because there's no information provided on here, and I went out to your website. You're going to add some more to that, because I didn't see anything about Urban League on there.
Well, and I probably will add that. I apologize. That's just recently happened within the last couple days that they've agreed to do that.
And how many kids are participating? Will be, excuse me.
Well, as you know, we have a large number of homeless children here. We have close to 700 little kiddos. So what our goal is, we're going to pilot the program with Thursday night. So every single Thursday, we will have between 10 and 15 children come in. And then as we work that out, then we will add another day and get transportation worked out for that next day. We'll add 10 to 15 more. And the goal is hopefully by, the end of the year or early next year that we've got all 5 days taken with children.
So your initial program is just 1 day a week?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I even went over and looked to see where the building was. That's just how interested I am.
Oh, great. And you know what? I want to invite everybody over to our building because isn't it a great building?
I think so, but I need to go inside.
Well, you know what? I happen to have a key, so I'll wait for you after this meeting, and I'll give you a private tour. I'll tell you about the building. The building is in a very historic. We're just doors down from President Lincoln's home, and when we purchased the building, it was an abandoned building. The windows were all busted out. It had been abandoned for a long time. And it was a building that my husband and I could afford because we had this vision a long time ago, and we wanted to provide a safe, place for these children. And slowly but surely, this neighborhood has changed. If I see something that looks inappropriate or out of place, I just pick up the phone and call the police. And it didn't take long before some characters moved out of our neighborhood. So I'm proud of what our neighborhood is really turning into. It's a beautiful historic building, and once again, I invite everybody to come out. We'd love to see you. Private tour, promise, and I'll even throw in a bottle of water.
I've been there, and it's awesome. They've done a nice job.
Thank you.
And all
What I was
the,
going to say is that Mr. Lemming and I both toured over there, and they've done a wonderful job getting that building set up and ready for.
I would think
Ready
that
for our homeless students that we'll transport over there. And I work with Mr. Koopman, and all it was is an added stop. So bus is already going in that direction.
It's not always cooperative, so
Well,
I don't. And
like I said,
literally, there was nothing in the board.
I had a way of
that
speaking with Mr.
described it.
Koopman, so
Yeah.
it was okay.
Okay. Well, I'll have to go see for myself because it affects children, and I want to make sure
Absolutely.
doing the right
Well,
thing.
there are a lot of people that were startled by the number of what is considered to be a homeless child in this district. You ought to be. The definition of that, if a couple of families are together, sharing a dwelling, those kids become homeless. Am I correct? By definition.
Mrs. Haley would probably be the expert on the exact definition. That's correct, she said.
But those are real numbers, and that is, those are kids with needs, and more needs. So,
Arlo, don't be
program.
bashful. Come up and add to the conversation. Thank you.
It's okay.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am Darla Haley, and I'm the homeless liaison for Springfield Public Schools. And in answer to your question, Mr. Pelini, that is correct. Most students are doubled here in our district. We did identify just over 650, 670 homeless students last year. We're at approximately 180 already this year, 3 weeks into school. Our families are living in a variety of situations, but the number of them are doubled. Again, they're living with a friend or relative because they have no other resources. Not all situations are homeless situations. I have to, evaluate that very closely, but most of them are. And they're destitute situations, they're very dire. Our kids need a lot of assistance. I'm sorry, losing my voice. And a lot of academic support. That's why I'm extremely excited for Matthew. Just elated because this is the only after-school mentoring and tutoring program I know, again, that is exclusively. It was Mrs. Levy's vision to serve homeless children and youth, and that is what she is doing, has continued to do. She has not strayed from that mission, so we can't wait until things are underway.
This is absolutely marvelous. This is.
It's wonderful.
This is what we're here for.
I just wanted to share like one story that Darla shared with me just the other day. There was a little boy, 5 years old, who was identified through the school nurse because he came to school covered head to toe with bug bites. And the nurse, was asking him, where are you staying? And he wasn't forthcoming with that information. And long story short, the nurse found out that he was living in a tent in one of our parks with his mom and dad, and bless their hearts, they were trying to, he said, well, but it's an adventure. We get to stay outside every single night. And that's the spin that the mom and dad were putting on it to make sure that he felt safe and that he wasn't scared and that, he was going to be okay with that. But this child came to school, with no repellent, no, just head to toe. And that's the kind of kids that we are welcoming in. So we can provide, I might not be able to get them a house, but you know what? I promise you they're gonna go home with some bug repellent for them and their brothers and sisters, and they're gonna go home with a bag of Panera bagels so the kids have something else to eat, the rest of the family. We're just gonna really do our best to love on these kids and to provide what we can to see them through school, help them with school. That's our number one goal, is to help them academically, and to just let them know that this community refuses to turn their backs on these children. I'll tell you what, I've lived here my whole life, and I've never really realized it till now. That is such an honest statement. I am so overwhelmed when I meet people and strangers and I tell them, no matter who I bump into, I'm always talking about the Matthew Project. And I'll say, my gosh, we have 600 to 700 homeless kids here in Springfield. They're living in their vehicles. They're at the Bel Air Motel with prostitutes, at their feet, and drug deals going on. And they're in big wheels, right out in front of the parking lot. Drive by there and you'll see it every day. And when people realize that, they want to help. I mean, I've never come across somebody who's turned their back. So this is a community effort. This is not by any means me and me alone. There's a lot of people. It takes a lot of volunteers. And but we're certainly faithful to do what we need to do to help these little kids out.
Can't tell us the secret. Matthew, who was Matthew?
The Matthew Project, the name comes from the book of Matthew, when Jesus is talking to his disciples and he says, when I was hungry, you fed me, and when I was naked, you gave me clothing, and when I was alone, you welcomed me in. And really, that's the essence of the Matthew Project. And they said, well, we don't remember that. When did we do that? And he said, when you do it for the least of these, you do it for me. And so in the world's eyes, these children are the least of these. But in our eyes, they're the greatest.
Could you share with us where you get your donations from?
Yes, private donations, community members. We're getting ready to do a campaign, capital campaign. So I'll be passing the collection plate in a little bit.
Okay.
And I don't know what else can be said. I mean, you've said it all. It's terrific. Thank you.
Well, let's clarify
Yes.
just one thing.
Yes.
Your volunteers will go through a screening just like all of our other
Absolutely.
programs, right?
Everybody goes through the background check. Absolutely. Pardon me? Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm working with the district on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And they do have a nice website, but, I'm sure that information will be increased as it goes along.
Are you ready for the votes?
Yes.
Mr. Flamini? Okay. Flamini?
Aye.
Funderburg?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Lopez?
Aye.
McFarland?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Zimmers?
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. Motion carries.
Roll call items, Doug.
First one, 9.1 is approval of personnel recommendations. Ms. Sherman.
President Flamini and members of the board, the superintendent recommend the personnel recommendations as presented on the electronic school board. Addendums are also included.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions?
Funderburg?
Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. Motion carries.
The next three items are salary agreements with various units that we bargain with. So 9.2 is the approval of the 2013-14 salary agreement with the Springfield Principals Association. Ms. Sherman.
Now therefore it be resolved that the Board of Education of Springfield Public School District 186 hereby determines that there shall be no change in the salary schedule from the 2012-13 school year, and SPA members will receive only step and longevity movement for the 2013-14 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's go.
Okay. Johnson.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. The motion carries.
9.3 is approval of the 2013-14 salary agreement with professional and technical support personnel. Ms. Sherman.
Now therefore it be resolved that the Board of Education of Springfield Public School District 186 hereby determines that there shall be no change in the salary schedule from the 2012-13 school year, and PTSP members will receive only step and longevity movement for the 2013-14 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Okay.
Lopez.
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. Motion carries.
9.4, approval of the 2013-14 collective bargaining agreement with SEIU Local Number 15.
Now therefore it be resolved that the Board of Education of Springfield Public School District 186 does hereby approve the changes to the bargaining agreement with the SEIU Local 15 as noted in the signed tentative agreements and to be was ratified by the membership of Local 15.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes. Motion carries.
Okay, and then the last of the roll call items is 9.5 student disciplines. My recommendation that one 8th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Washington Middle School through the end of the 13-14 school year with the program, and one 9th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Southeast High School through the end of the 13-14 school year, also with the program. And lastly, that one 9th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Lanphier High School through the end of the 13-14 school year, also with the program.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
I'm going to abstain from this vote because I wasn't in attendance during the discussion in the exec session.
Okay. Moore.
Abstain.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
Johnson.
I'm going to vote present because I didn't hear the discussion,
I'm abstaining.
and I'm voting present.
Okay.
Lopez.
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
That is 5 aye votes and 2 abstentions. The motion carries.
Okay, I lived through another one. I shouldn't say it that way. See, I have difficulty up here because I'm more interested in talking about all these educational issues, and this is about as much fun sometimes as watching paint dry. Judy.
I have a question for our Ms. Whiteside. Kayla, did you have any family with you tonight, dear? No? Okay. We just want, we didn't want to not recognize. That was my question.
You spoke up, that's good. All right. Next regular meeting, Monday, October the 7th, 5:30 PM here in the board room. All righty?
Night, everybody.